going to be working from a drawing, a schematic drawing here that has all our dimensions that we need to make this Lego brick. Over here you have a sample, and if you look at the feature tree you can go back and see what each step looks like. Now there are multiple ways to make this. This just happens to be one of the ways to make it. So I'm going to show you how we're doing this. I'm going to make a new sketch. Shift S, click on my top plane, hit the N key so I'm zooming normal. I'm going to make a rectangle. I'm going to make a center point rectangle. Now looking at my drawing, that width is 31.8 and the height is 15.8. Okay, from here I'm going to extrude, so that is Shift E. My height here, looking back at the drawing, says, let's go back here and just double check. So that is, the height here is 9.6. Go back here, go back into that sketch, that extrude, so 9.6. So I now have that brick there. Okay, my next step, looking back at the drawing, is I'm going to draw these circles. We're going to use a new tool called the linear pattern tool. So I'm going to put a new sketch on the top of this brick, hit that N key, I'm going to zoom in. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make a circle. One circle. Looking back at that sketch, that diameter is 4.8. Okay. I'm actually going to move this circle down here to save us a step towards this bottom corner, and you'll see why when we do our pattern. All right, I need a dimension on the drawing. So my dimensions: the center point of the circle and the top edge of that brick is 3.9. And if I look over here, from the center point of the circle to the right edge is also 3.9. And these are evenly spaced, which is why you only see two of the dimension lines. So 3.9 is our number. So I am going to dimension from the center point to the bottom edge on this one. So that's going to be 3.9. And I'm going to dimension from the center point to the left edge. Straight down, that is going to be 3.9. Okay, so notice how that turned white on mine. If you're not in dark mode, it will turn black. That means it's fully defined. I'm going to hit escape. And up here at the top, I'm going to go linear pattern. You might have to search for it. You can search for pattern, and you have two options. You have linear and circular. So we're going to go linear pattern. When I bring that up, I'm going to select the outside edge of the circle. Now, if I zoom out, you'll see what's happening here. Okay, it's going to do a default spacing of 25 millimeters. Well, if I look back at that drawing, it said 8. Okay. And how many instances do I need? I need a total of 4. So if you look up here, I now have this 1x. That means I currently have one row, but I don't have, or sorry, I have one column, or sorry, 4 columns, but one row. I need a second column. So I'm going to drag this down, and once I drag it down, it should give me that second row of everything. And that dimension, because these are going to form a square, this would also be 8. That is my linear pattern. I'm done with that. So now from here, actually let's go back into that sketch. It's a little easier. If I go back into that sketch, let's hit Shift E to extrude. That's going to extrude just the nubs. The height, if I look at the drawing, is 1.8. Let me show you on the drawing where that is. So I'm looking at this height here from this top edge to the top of the nub is 1.8. Go back in, change my extrude height to 1.8. And I want these to be added to. I don't want them to be new, so they're going to be blue as well. All right, so that's looking good so far. I'm going to go to the bottom. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to create this shell. So we have the inside of a box here. So we need to know the depth, or the distance from the inside edge to the outside edge. Well, if I look on this drawing here, these two little arrows left and right, that's telling me the thickness of this wall here, which is 1.2. So I'm going to use my shell tool. Shell. Click on the bottom, asking me for my dimensions. We're going to go 1.2. We now have bottom shell. Okay. My next sketch, it's very important to put it in the right spot. So I want to make sure all my other sketches are off, which if they're gray, they are off. I can always turn them back on if I need them, but I don't need them. I'm going to make a new sketch. So Shift S, I'm going to click on the bottom here, so the inside bottom. That's where my new sketch is going to be. So I'm looking right at it. A couple different ways to do this. I can simply start plotting my circles here if I wanted to, just by putting 3 circles down. I've got them constrained to the center line, so I know that they are centered on this rectangle. I could also do a linear pattern. I could draw this first circle, click on my pattern tool here, and I have the ability to do that pattern as well. So either way is absolutely fine, whatever works for you. I'm just going to go with this because I've already got it here. So I need these to be dimensioned. If I look at my drawing, there's actually 2 circles here. I've got an inner circle and an outer circle. Well, this arrow points to my inner circle, so that diameter is 3.91. And this one points to the outer circle, which is 6.51. You could use a shell tool, which is on this one. You can use a shell tool, but there's also a way where you just draw 2 concentric circles, dimension them, and it will extrude for you. So I'm going to go ahead and draw all these. Notice I haven't dimensioned anything. I'm going to hit Dimension key, click on this inner circle. Inner circle is 3.91. And dimension my outer circle here, which is 6.51. Okay. So I'm going to use my equal command. If you remember this from a few videos ago, I'm going to hit the E key, which is my equal command or constraint. I'm going to click on my center circle. So this is the parent. This is the copy. This is the parent. And this is the child. Now I'm going to click on this one as my parent, and the child, parent, child is what that relationship is called. Now the middle one is fully constrained because it turned white. These outer 2 aren't because we haven't dimensioned this center point to this edge. If I dimension the center point to that edge, looking back at the drawing, that says 6.7. You guessed it, 7. 6, 7. Yeah, it's annoying, isn't it? So we'll go here and we'll go 6.7. Boom, those circles are fully defined. We can extrude this by hitting Shift E, and it knows what we want to extrude is just that. This one we're using, generally we've been using a blind endpoint, but if I click on this, I can actually do up to face, and now I can select which face I want it to be as tall as. So I want it to be just as deep as the edge of this. So that now is flush with the bottom of the brick. Okay, so that's the up to face command. So I don't have to type in a number. I don't have to do any math of how deep this actually is. It will automatically do that for me. So we're done with that part. So now we have one more sketch to do. Oops. We have one more sketch to do. I'm going to put that sketch on the bottom plane yet again. Zoom normal. I'm going to use a rectangle. I'm going to use a center point rectangle. I'm going to center it here. And I'm going to attach it to that line right there. See how that orange line popped up? So that means it's the exact length of the inner shell there. So going back to my drawing, I need to find out this rectangle here. If you look at that rectangle there, it's asking for what dimension that is, and that looks to be 0.8. So I'm going to go back to my drawing here. I'm going to dimension this vertical line to this vertical line. Pull that down, and that is 0.8. Okay. I have to do one more thing here because on our brick, we don't want this line, these fins is what I'm going to call them. We don't want them to go all the way through this circle. We want them to stop at this outer ring of the circle. So what we need to do is we need to define the top of this little geometry here. So I'm going to hit the U key, which is a use command, meaning I can use these other shapes. This circle is not on this sketch. It's on a different sketch. This rectangle is on a different sketch. I can use them in this new sketch that I've got here. So I'm just going to click this outer ring of the circle. And what that's going to do is it's going to draw a little line right there that I can use. So I've got that there. I'm going to hit escape. I'm not ready to hit extrude yet. So I'm going to go ahead and accept the sketch. Because when I extrude, notice how these little geometries now all pop up and you can kind of segment them into little parts. So we just want this little piece here and this little piece here. Okay, now I don't want them that tall. If you look back on the sketch, we do have to do some math here. The height of the rectangle was 9.6. my shell was 1.2. So from the top edge to the inside part of this, so we're looking at this thickness here, that is a thickness of 1.2. And remember, we put our sketch on this bottom of it, so we're 1.2 down from that 9.6, so that's going to be 8.4. And then this says that we want to leave a gap of 1.48. So a gap of 1.48. So if we take, what was that, 9.6 minus 1.2. Come on. Nope. 1.2 minus 1.2. And then we want to also minus the 1.48. We get a total of 6.92. So that's what I want my height to be. So I'm going to come over here and type in 6.92. So now those fins, they stop at this outer ring, and they are not as tall as this face here. That is the completed Lego brick. What I do want you to do is put a sketch on one of these sides. You're going to do a text box, and you're going to put your name in there. Remember not to constrain it to anything. Make sure there's nothing orange that pops up so you can kind of move it around. So I've got my name here. I can coincident, which is an I command, this dot to this center line, which will mean it's centered. I want to extrude, and I want to remove. Okay, I don't want it popping off the side. I want to remove it, but I'm only going to remove it 0.6 millimeters, which means it will just be lightly engraved in there, but it doesn't go all the way through. Okay, it's not popping out the back. So if I did 1.2, it would go all the way through, but 0.6. Yes, there are overhangs, but it's small enough that it should work just fine. So that is then our final brick. I can edit my appearance. I can make it gold. I can actually go in here and I can assign a material. And let's actually make this a gold brick. If this were a gold brick, if I click on my brick, whoops. If I select my brick, I can click down here and it will tell me that this brick weighs 0.095 pounds. I wonder how much that would cost. So I'm going to do a quick Google search here. 0.095 pounds to ounces, because gold is measured in ounces, so that's 1.52 ounces. Okay. Gold per ounce price, 1.52. So it's a day. Price per ounce is 3,000. Yeah. So one Lego brick made of gold is going to be 1.52. Whoops, come on. Times 3645.50. That little Lego brick would cost be worth $5,541.16 as of September 12th, 2025. Wow. Happy brick making.